in the world, and to be human and to live next to each other and to have our bodies around each other and to be in cities and all of that. And there was something nice about sort of resituating myself in, you know, an incredibly long flow of history and understanding that I think our sort of native self-interest.
Alrighty, welcome everyone to the Blacc Study Group. I'm Twani, I'm a member of Blacc, and we have Shawn Mathyse, who is the Assistant Winemaker for Ken Forrester Wines. Shawn is one of my favorite people in the whole world. Chenin Blanc is one of my favorite grape varietals. So today I am in heaven. Welcome, Shawn. Can you just first tell us how you're doing with this whole COVID madness, how you're holding up, how's the family?
Hi, Twani. Thanks. Hi, everyone. Thank you. Yeah, it's tough times, but we just have to keep afloat, right? Yeah, a lot of good wines that kept me company throughout so far. It's starting to run dry, but yeah, I don't know where we're gonna stock up, but luckily for you guys, hope you're all confident, etc. Yeah, everyone is safe. I'm still healthy and I'm still working because there's some still stuff that's busy wild fermenting, so it takes time, and because it gets colder and things are slowing down a bit. So that's the tricky part of working with natural fermentation. So I'm lucky that I could get out of the house and come to the job, but yeah, it's passing.
Nice. Well, I mean, it's not nice that we have to go through this, and it's not nice that your wine collection is drying up, but I am glad that you're still able to take care of the wines during this hectic time. So tell us a little bit about Ken Forrester. Can you tell us where you guys are located and what grape varietals you guys specialize in?
Yeah, Ken Forrester Wines or Ken Forrester Vineyards, we're situated in Stellenbosch, South Africa. Probably the well-known wine country in South Africa. We're on the slopes of the Helderberg Mountain. So Stellenbosch is surrounded by a variety of mountains. I could name it three. The Helderberg Mountain, Stellenbosch Mountain, the Simonsberg Mountain, etc. And all of these mountains play a big part in terms of the terroir of the different wines. And we're about 6 kilometers away from the coast, and we specialize in a variety called Chenin Blanc. And on the red varieties, we focus on Rhone style blends, blends between Grenache or Garnacha, Mourvedre or Monastrell known as, and Shiraz or Syrah. So those are the varieties that we specialize in, but we do also make some other pretty good wines, quirky wines or hippie wines in that case. But yeah, it's a very small estate, but we focus on mostly on producing some of the best Chenin Blancs in the country. That's our main aim.
Nice. I cannot wait to get into a more in-depth conversation about the Chenin Blanc. So at the Blacc Study Group, what we're doing is we're studying, and we're kind of using the WSET method where we're just going through the entire book. And so a part of the book that we're on right now is studying grape varietals. So I want to talk about some of the hippie grape varietals that you're growing, but I also really want to focus on Chenin Blanc. Before we get to that though, can you tell me your title and what you actually do at the winery?
Well, I'm the jack of all trades at the winery, from the chief bottle washer to everything. But my main focus is I'm specializing in more of experimentals as well, and I focus on the high-end wines as well, mostly special projects, etc. I'd like to stay up and stay up fresh, because you have these wines that you produce that is well known, and then you still need to make wines for the market in that case as well, and to stay ahead and then keep on making things exciting for yourself in the cellar. Instead of going boring, we're going the exciting way in that case. So yeah, I'm the assistant winemaker. So if I have to give myself a title or what people, I don't feel like a need for a title, because I know what is required for me in that case, and my speciality, and then what I want to gain out of it, and then what is best in terms of for the wine as well. So yeah, my main focus is Chenin Blanc, obviously, I work alongside Ken Forrester, which is known as Mr. Chenin or King of Chenin.
I love it. So
it's,
can you tell me what the most exciting thing about working with Ken Forrester is? Because he is like the King of Chenin Blanc, and he's like a, gosh, I don't know, what do you want to, like, I don't know, I feel like he's everyone's mentor when it comes to wine, especially Chenin Blanc, and he's such a cool guy. Like, he's so down to earth.
What I love about him is his amazing passion behind believing in stuff, believing in people, and etc. And well, let's start with Chenin, and it's a variety it used to be produced as box wine or easy drinking wines or for base wine as distillery. And when he started out the block in 1993, bought his farm in an auction. Most of his friends told him, "You're not gonna make it." And he said, "Well, I want a wine farm." And all of those vineyards on the farm was Chenin Blanc. And his friends told him again, "Pull out those vineyards." And he said, "No, I want to keep those vineyards." So he's determined and accept. And part of that is that he wanted to produce a Chenin Blanc that would sell into world Chenin Blancs. And he kept believing. And up until today, we are well known as one of the South Africa's most award-winning Chenin Blancs in the country in that case. And he's just a great spirited guy, and he believes in you, and that's important in this industry. People believe in you so that you can produce a really good product that you yourself believe in that case. Yeah.
So what about, can you talk a little bit about like the winemaking process at Ken Forrester? So are you guys considered a small boutique winery, a commercial winery? Like what kind of scale would you say Ken Forrester is? And talk about some of the winemaking practices. Do you guys use a basket press, hand pick, machine, what?
Yeah, one of the philosophies is that all of our grapes are hand harvested in that case. We believe if you look after the community, you employ people to harvest for you, the community will look after you in that case. And hand harvest is important for us. And one of the key things is that we use quite old vines for most of our premium high-end wines, or we source parcels from special parcels. So, and we like to focus on more what the vineyard will show you in that case, instead of minimum intervention in terms of the winemaking processes. As you know, in South Africa, there's about variety styles of Chenin Blanc that you can produce. You can produce a sparkling wine, unwooded, easy drinking wine, a more medium-bodied wine, a full-bodied Chenin, and then a dessert wine even with Chenin Blanc. And we do all of those styles here, and that's the beauty of it. It's remarkable how you can do it with one variety. I always say Chenin Blanc is so diverse, like a culture in that case. You can go from this side of the mountain and taste the Chenin Blanc, and to the other side of the mountain taste the Chenin Blanc. It will totally. In terms of winemaking, natural fermentation is key. We love to do natural fermentation. We natural ferment in barrels. Depends on the wine style. We mostly use for our high-end and mid-tier wines. We use about 30% new barrels. And it's mostly 400-liter French oak barrels. We don't use alternative oaks, nothing, no foederas, but we use stainless steel components as well that we use. So we like to focus on that natural aspect, and also the vineyard needs to come through as well. Like these old vineyards is intended to give you more complexity and the palate and etc. So natural fermentation is key for us, yeah.
And when you say natural fermentation, do you mean like natural yeast? Do you like not add yeast, or you just go with the natural yeast that's in the universe?
Yeah, what we will do is we just whole bunch press the berries after clusters, the bunches, and then we take those juice, put it into 2 barrels, a combination of 30% new barrels, and the rest will be second fill in older barrels, and then let it just natural ferment, no yeast added, nothing added to it, just let it ferment in that case.
Nice.
Yeah, it just gives you, cause I also produce. We also produce a Chenin called the Dirty Little Secret, which is from a Chenin Blanc from a Pekingese Club area, high altitude in the mountainside vineyard. It's about less than a hectare block. It's a very special parcel. It's on its original own rootstocks, and each year we only get about as far as 4 barrels out of that whole block, and up until from whole bunch pressing it, juice into second fill and older barrels, no new barrels, and let it ferment naturally. No sulfites added, no yeast added, natural as possible. That and again, the terroir comes through after the final product. You can taste that heritage vineyard out there. It's totally different from our FMC, from Stellenbosch Chenin, from Swartland Chenin. It's totally different. It has this unique aroma that I always pick up. It's almost like you get almost like a tea, a note in there, which I always find remarkable of that area, because out in that citrus dal, that area, there is also tea plantations, and that might also have an effect on that vineyard. But when the wine ferments and etc., you can smell that aromas, and it's a special parcel. It's a special wine close to my heart. And then again, we produce the FMC, which is a much more fuller Chenin Blanc, totally different, from an old heritage block on the farm, Hoesvine Vineyard. And then again, that's all fermented in separate parcels. We do repetitive harvesting. We pick 5 to 7 different times in a 1 month period of harvesting time. And because we pick at different sugar levels, and we're trying to pick, because there's uneven ripeness in that block, so we're trying to pick at optimal ripeness in that block. So if you're going to pick it once, you're going to get an average quality, and we don't want average. We want that uniqueness of that vineyard. And after the different pickings, we put them separately in batches of barrels, and then natural fermentation as well. And then after 12 months, we blend these building blocks together and make up the FMC. So that again it's time, it's effort, it's experience again, and we know that wine. We know it's a world-renowned wine, Chenin Blanc, and to keep up that standard, it's very easy, because that vineyard, the terroir, the winemaking process all plays part in that case.
Can you just answer my question right quick? What does FMC stand for?
If I have to tell you, I'm allowed to swear.
Yes, please tell us tell us what you guys call it. I want to know exactly what it stands for.
Okay, you said it, not me. It stands for the F Marvelous Chenin Blanc. That's the unofficial name for it, but the official name is
I'll say it. The fucking Marvelous Chenin Blanc, right? Okay, I love it.
There you go. Yeah,
good. And so so I just want to make sure that we all understand that we're all on the same page. So basically what you do with this Chenin Blanc, the FMC, is you pick all the grapes from the different vineyards, and then you make that wine just like you would normally make it. You fully ferment it. It becomes this wine that's ready to go. But then you take it and you blend it.
It's actually from one vineyard. It's one vineyard, but there's different zones in that block.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Does anybody have any questions so far? Let's just pause for 1 second. If you have a question, just raise your hand or type something in the chat box, and then I'll unmute you. All right, no questions, so we will continue. All right, so can you talk? Go ahead.
Just to touch a bit on Chenin Blanc, in front of me I have what we call a aroma wheel. And this is the aromas of South African Chenin Blancs, and with the collaboration between the Chenin Blanc Association of South Africa and the University of Stellenbosch, they identified that there are over 266 aroma profiles that you can identify South African Chenin Blancs, and they took over 3,000 bottles of Chenin Blanc from vintage 2007 to current vintage, and they used expertise from the industry, vineyard managers, winemakers, and research shows that there are over 266 aroma profiles on this wheel. This is an example that you can use to identify South African Chenin Blancs, and then again, each other variety you can do that with.
So would you
that's
say
what I love about Chenin Blanc. That diversity.
Could you though say that there's if you had to give us 3 fruit flavors or aromas that are associated with Chenin Blanc, can you give us the top 3 fruit aromas and flavors that are associated with Chenin Blanc?
Usually, I would say tropical fruits, and then again, it depends on which terroir it comes from. Some, for instance, from Swartland will be minerality. Excuse me. Stellenbosch side, which is much more a warmer climate, would have more tropical notes. And again, you get something like from a cooler area out in Elgin, you get a little bit of lime, lemon, you know, green, a little bit of greenness notes to that in that case. But in Stellenbosch, we prefer to make a full bodied, which you can get a much more richness. Chenin Blancs as well, and in more tropical notes like apricots, you know, lime, sometimes out of lemon, and even guavas you can get out of the younger ones as well, the fresh and fruitier styles in that case. Whereas the rich and ripes will be a little bit more complex, more richer, with a little bit of the residual sugars in that case for ageability in that case.
We have a question from Silas. Silas, do you want to ask your question?
Yes, I do. Hey, Shawn, my friend, how are you?
Good, and yourself?
Very well, not complaining. I have a question for you. When you talk about natural fermentation, where you don't have to add any yeast, neither do you have to add any sulfite. And you know, reading through the books, I've come to points whereby they say if you allow natural fermentation to happen, then you may not be able to predict the end results of the flavors that you want to achieve. How are you able to predict what is it that you want to achieve at the end of the day? And again, I've also realized that if you don't add any sulfites during the process of fermentation, you might have chances of having what we call the acetobacters, bacterials that will introduce the acetic acid, and sometimes ending up with botrytis, kind of an infection in your wine. How do you counter this? Do you deal with these maybe later? Yeah. So yeah, those are the 2 questions that I want you to help me with. Thank you.
Okay. First of all, when you work with natural yeast, you'll then again, you know, things can go sideways. It can go either good or either bad, but it depends on your cellar hygiene and the current natural yeast in your cellar from throughout the years in that case. Well, in terms of with our wines, the end results came out pretty good. Yeah, some barrels, for instance, out of a batch of 10 barrels, because barrels have a different climate. We believe each barrel is differently completely. So one barrel could ferment fastly throughout it. The other one could take a month or 2, and some of them would even go through stuck fermentation in that case. But that isn't the problem. If it's 1 out of 10 through stuck fermentation, if you blend it all together in the end results, it will add nice complexity to it, and the residual sugar will disappear. And to answer the sulfite component question is that with our dirty little secret, we don't add any yeast to that wine, yeast as well, and no sulfites because it's natural as possible. But you are allowed to have your vineyard management in that case. So you're allowed to add, in the vineyard stages, you spray a little bit of sulfites to maintain that, as well as with the other wines which are not natural wines, we intend to add sulfites after fermentation in that case, or sometimes if you keep it on the lees and you keep it topped up, the lees will keep the wines healthy in that case as well.
Can you
I hope I
talk?
answered your
Fantastic.
question. Yes.
Is that good?
Very well. Thank you.
Nice. Can you talk a little bit about the acidity in Chenin Blanc? In general, is Chenin Blanc a wine that has high acidity, low acidity, medium acidity?
Chenin is intended to have a natural crisp acidity. In that case, you can top up a little bit of acidity. Depends on how you've worked with it, but it's intended to have a natural high crisp acidity in that case, which is quite distinctive when you taste it. And it compared to Sauvignon Blanc in that case, where Chenin Blanc has a more integrated acidity. I never have a problem with acidity in terms of Chenin Blanc in that case.
What about your MCCs? Can you talk? Let's talk MCCs, because I am dying for sparklings right now. I have none in my, I'm running low on wine. and I do like this, what is it, the sparkling horse, or what is it called? Or am I just describing the label that I love so much?
It's called Sparkle Horse. Let me see if I can grab a bottle.
Okay.
There you go. Sorry, this one is empty.
The bottle is, the label is lovely. Can we talk about the juice? So like,
there's almost like a carousel. Ken saw it in London. The label has a meaning to it. You know, Chenin Blanc used to be the workhorse grape of South Africa, and up until the day it still is. And Ken is one of the guys behind to produce and drive South African Chenin Blancs out there. We decided on producing there's a vineyard right in front here where we used to struggle with a parcel, a patch in the middle, because the vineyard goes like a ditch. So in order for that middle ditch, you have to harvest it quite a little bit later and wait for it. So Ken had this brilliant idea of harvesting it early and just produce it and use that natural high acidity and produce a Method Cup Classique with it. So that's how the Sparkle Horse was born in. The first vintage was in 2011. So it has this nice, fresh, crisp acidity. It's intended to give you a well distinctive green Granny Smith apple type of aromas, which you not normally intend to find in some other Method Cup Classique out of Pinot Noir or Chardonnay or a combination of both. So yeah, it's a fun wine. As you can see the label, it's all about fun. So it's meant to be different. It's not, Ken always say, we can't copy champagne. We can't go for that whole classy look. We just went for something fun and something different. And that's what Chenin Blanc is. It's fun and different.
I love it. And so when you say MCC, so that means that it's made in the Champenois method or the traditional method, right? And so
yes.
What's different about that process than just making the regular Chenin Blanc?
Well, it's Method Cup Classique. We're not allowed to call it champagne, so it's made in the traditional way, where the second fermentation takes place in the bottle, which causes the bubbles. We don't add any dosage to it. We just top it up with a little bit of a younger wine just to keep it up to that space there. So it's natural, fun, and interesting. For those of you that looking for something interesting, a Method Cup Classique to try Chenin Blanc MCCs. There's this new trend. There's a lot of wineries that's starting to produce Method Cup Classiques with Chenin Blanc as well. I know Paardenberg is doing one, the Morgenzon. Yeah, House of Salvalerie. Yeah.
I love it because it's actually like a really good, it's a really good gift wine because it's so festive looking, and then it's so unique because you don't usually have champagnes or sparkling wines that are made with Chenin Blanc, and it tastes really delicious. Not to give you guys a commercial.
Karen asked a question now. She asked how many months on the lease it is. It's up to 24 months, but this one specifically is 21 months on the lease. Normally it's between 18 to 24 months. Yeah, but it still retains that fresh, you know, that Granny Smith apple character, but it's not in the direction of you know, some of the MCCs can be leasy, they can be down heavier, but this is more fruit driven and it's unwooded. There's no wooded component, it's unwooded component. Yeah.
And nice. Does anybody have any questions about the sparkling wine? No, just raise your hand if you do. No questions? Okay, so let's talk about the dessert wine. So you also said that you guys do a Chenin Blanc in a dessert style. So can you talk a little bit about that? And is it botrytis? Is it late harvest? Is it both? Or is it picked, you know, early? Can you just talk, or stop the fermentation early? Yeah. Can you talk about it?
Just to add to that, is that the acid also helps the ageability of Chenin Blanc. I currently here, I'm sitting here next to me is a 2007 Chenin. If you can see it, I'll compare to you now. It's called the Old Wine Reserve, 2007. And this one is a 2019, which I'm currently, you can see the color. It's a little bit golden color, but it still has acidity left in that case. When I smell the younger one, it has that fresh tropical notes, where this one is almost like the fresher fruit become baked fruit in that case. So botrytis wines, wait
1 second, Inga, does that answer your question about the acidity? Ina?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, does that answer your question about the acidity?
Yes, absolutely, because it sort of adds to the ageability of Chenin, and I'm so glad Shawn also mentioned the 2007, but we often taste older Ken Forrester wines, and my favorite is the FMC of 2000, which shows the lovely ageability of our South African Chenins. That is great.
Nice. So if you're unlike me and you can lay wine down, then it's the wine to buy. I usually can't. I don't have the patience for that. All right. So if we don't have any more questions about sparkling wine or acidity in wine, we'll move on to the dessert wine. All right.
Okay,
so let's talk about dessert wines.
Lucky enough, Ken allowed me to play around with some straw wine this year with Chenin Blanc. So I had about half a ton of grapes, which was picked over 40 degrees bricks or valley. That's the ideal. You want anything over 40 degrees of valley or bricks, the sugar levels that you measure in. And luckily, I laid out on straw outside, and I started with about 25 crates. I ended up only pressing 15 crates. So that's how the berries hydrated out there. In terms of liters, it was a very small quantity, about 100 liters, but it's exciting stuff. It's my first time with straw wine, but I've worked with dessert wines. Then again, dessert wines, you also sometimes want to leave it on the vines and let it reach that sugar levels of over 40 degrees bricks. Sometimes there's different methods that you can use. You can pinch sometimes you can pinch the stalk, so that there's no water coming through, so it allows the almost like, not vine dry, but the acidity to build up in that case. And we left the parcels around the farm of Chenin Blanc vineyards, which we managed to pick quite later. Obviously we waited, because not every year you get botrytis. If you get botrytis, you're lucky in that case. But we managed to get some beautiful fresh combination with fresh botrytis, where you still see botrytis on this, and you need a little bit of whole berries which are not affected. So that will add the juice and the acidity in that case. And then again, after pressing that whole bunch, After soaking it cold soak for about a week in 5 degrees Celsius, we pressed it, and then again you wanted raisin character out of it, and if you get that character, it's perfect character, and we managed to get that, and pressed it into barrel and let it natural ferment. I managed to only make about 1 barrel this year, and it's about 225 liters. So it's not something you get often either in high quantities or etc. It's like liquid gold. So it's natural fermented, and it's still fermenting. So it's almost dry. So I just leave it. I don't stop the fermentation. It will stop by itself in that case because of the high sugar content. Usually you sit around with the end result, you sit around with anything from 150, anything above 120 grams per liter of sugar in there. So if you have higher than that, then it's perfect. But then again, what makes Chenin Blanc, botrytis wines, or dessert wines so great is that it has that natural high acidity. Then again, you have to have that balance between acidity and sugars in that case. Whereas with the FMC, it's a different story because the FMC it's a drier wine, but when we do that multiple pickings, like I explained earlier, we have a botrytis component added from that block, which we pick at the very end, which add that complexity that if you look at the FMC's residual sugar throughout the vintages, it's anything between 5 grams up to 15 grams, sometimes 12 grams, but it has a natural high acidity, which balances it out, which makes it still wine. Some people will say it's an off-dry wine, but we don't feel like it needs to be classified as an off-dry wine. And it ages beautifully, like Ina mentioned earlier, that ageability of Chenin Blanc.
Nice. I think Tunde has a question. Do you want to ask your question now? Oh, wait, I'm mute. Wait, I'm sorry, wait a second. There you go. You're unmuted now.
Yes, how are you, Shawn?
Yes, then.
Yes, my man, how are you? Good to see you, man. Yes, sorry to take you back to your little dead secret. You mentioned that you ate fruit from the from the original rootstock. I'm very interested on that to know, are these vines not grafted, or what do you mean by original rootstock?
Yes. So what happens is the vineyard is out in an area called Pekingese Kloof. It's in Citrus Dal area. It's about 2.5 hours drive from here up more north, past the Swartland. You drive past Swartland, and it's a high elevated mountainside vineyard. It's approximately about 800 meters above sea level. And what happens was the lady from the neighboring farm, the lady from the farm, she took the cuttings from the neighboring farm and planted them, and she just put them in the ground. And what happens with what most believe is that high altitude wines, they get unaffected, and it means if you isolate it as well. That vineyard was planted in 1959, and at that stage, if you isolate it like that area out there, out in the mountainside vineyard, the chances that you get diseases are very little. You get your normal diseases, but not root diseases. You get diseases like leaf roll and etc. Like that. You don't get that really dangerous ones like phylloxera in that case. So it means, yes, to answer your question, it hasn't been grafted onto American rootstock or anything. It was just the plantings was put it into the ground, the cuttings.
Interesting.
Thank you, very interesting, yeah.
Does that answer your question? Do you have any more? Perfect. All right, so can we go back to this dessert wine, just because I was trying to follow and make sure that I understood everything. And so when you said that you pinch the vine, is that kind of like mimicking like botrytis in a sense where it dries the grape out? Or is it just?
That's one thing. That's one of the methods that we use. Otherwise, other than then, you can just leave it on the vine and wait for the sugars to build up as well. But we use one of the methods as well to pinch that vine, and you allow water. You stop water from flowing into the berries, into the buds in that case. So you let it a little bit, almost like vine drying. But other than that, you just leave it on the vines to let it build up that enough sugars.
Nice. So you get like more concentrated grape juice, I would imagine.
More sugar concentration, yes.
Okay, and then you said cold soak. Can you just define that term for us? Because there's some of us who might get a little bit confused with that. I know a lot of times we get confused with that and carbonic maceration, which is different.
Because it's quite a small patch. I just toss it into a bin, and then I put a bin into a cold room or container, a cold container, which allows it to it cools it down to like minus 5 degrees Celsius in that case, or about 5 degrees Celsius. So it cold soak, it extracts, what happens with cold soak, it extracts the phenols, phenolical aroma compounds out of the berries in that case. What you do is you just normally do punch downs, but they ferment. Because you allow to cold soak, it allows not to start the fermentation yet. So it's currently almost like you're trying to leach out the aromas.
Oh, and what about the color? Do you get the cut? Like, is the wine deeper in color because of the cold soak?
Because there's what's that compound that's responsible for oxidation is in there. I think it's called lysosome, if I'm correct, but that's what causes the brownness as well in there. And you extract a lot of those as well. And throughout fermentation, some of the color disappears, but you still retain that brown, golden color to it because of that oxidative compounds in there. Because in dessert wines, there's quite a lot of that.
So then the fermentation takes place after the cold soak. So the cold soak kind of puts it on reserve.
Yeah.
And then after
the whole idea to cold soak it into a lower temperature is to allow to currently pause or stop the fermentation from happening, but extracting flavor compounds and phenols and aromas out of the berries and etc.
So after the cold soak, though, then that's when you would just press the juice from those grapes and then start the fermentation. Yes. Okay. You guys, make sure you make notes because that's part of our studying. So like, okay. Cool. Any questions about the sweet wine? I'm just gonna unmute everyone for a quick second, and then that way people can just ask their questions. Let me see. All right, so if you have a question, this is your time to ask the question. Otherwise, I'll just mute everyone because it gets noisy. No questions? All right, so let me mute everyone in. And I'm sorry, I have the most questions. It's so interesting to me. Hold on for 1 second. Let me unmute you, Shawn. All right, there we go. All right, so we talked about the sparkling Chenin Blanc, we talked about the dessert wine Chenin Blanc, and we talked about the full body, which would be the FMC, and then the lighter body, which would be the Dirty Little Secret Chenin Blanc. Are we missing any more in the range of Chenin Blancs that you guys do at Ken Forrester?
Well, the Dirty Little Secret is a little bit more fuller, different style as well. But what we do is there's the fresh and fruity styles, which is the Petit Chenin that we do, the unwooded styles of Chenin Blanc that you can get throughout South Africa. There's different types of normally very fresh, crisp, young, easy drinking styles of Chenin Blanc. It's a good alternative to Sauvignon Blanc for those of you that hates that high acidity of Sauvignon. Chenin has that fresh, crisp, balanced acidity. And usually it's quite well balanced, because what you smell on the palate, you always what you smell, the aromas, it usually tends to integrate on the palate as well with younger, easy drinking Chenins. And then the second category, which is my favorite, which I like, is the lightly wooded style of Chenin Blanc, which is the Old Vine Reserve, which I'm currently drinking. It's because I'm quite close to Ina, which is she's the manager of the Chenin Blanc Association. I work closely with her as well. I'm stocked with some pretty good Chenin Blancs from different producers, and it's amazing. Throughout the lockdown, I've enjoyed different producers Chenin Blancs, which is out there, and my style is more which I pretty much enjoy. But as you say, Chenin Blanc it can go for different occasions, for different taste buds, for different people. In that case, but this is a lightly wooded style. So what I mean by lightly is I put one component for 9 months on the lees in a tank, and then one component is fermented in barrels and aged in barrels. But out of those barrels is second fill in older barrels, and it's 400-liter French oak barrels. So the bigger the barrel, the lesser concentration of oak, or the lesser oak influence you have. And if you combine that fresher fruit from the tank component and a little bit of richness and complexity from the barrel component, which we usually do with blending, it's necessarily not 50-50, it's sometimes 45-55. It depends on where we find that balance. And it makes a perfect balance, because you get that fresher fruit and then a little bit of richness from the barrel component in that case as well. And that for me is one of the styles of Chenin Blanc which I enjoy pretty much, and it's always food complemented as well, and it can go with different food and different styles as well.
It sounds like it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, definitely the best of both worlds. That's what we're trying to achieve in that case. Because you get people, they don't like a more fuller, heavier Chenin Blanc or Chardonnay in that case, but this is much more a lightly wooded style. And because of that old barrels that we use, and it's bigger barrels, it's a perfect combination.
Nice. Okay, so any questions about Chenin Blanc before we move on to Cinsault? So would you call any questions? No questions? All right, so would you call Cinsault one of the hippie grapes? And when you talk about the hippie grapes, or can you just tell us first, like the flavor profiles of Cinsault, what your relationship is with Cinsault? Just talk about it.
Honestly, I've worked at a few other vineyards, but as you can see, I'm still very young as well, and I've learned quite a lot, and I'm still learning a lot. And that's the beauty of Ken, is allowing us to explore and view different options in that case. And then we recently, because each year what we do is, me and Ken, we decide on a variety that we're going to do that we not normally have on our wine portfolio, or commercial wines, or etc. Or even for, we look at wines that we can offer to our lovely brand ambassadors throughout South Africa, Monica, Nizan, and Karen, and Lo, and etc., which we trying to keep the market hippie and then trying to stay alive, because, you know, you can ask Silas out here, which is joining us. They get a little bit, I wouldn't say bored, but they want something different, something exciting to offer people. So we look at different varieties. A few years ago, I tried a Cab Franc. Last year I tried Cinsault, and this year I've tried a dry Muscat d'Alexandria, which you tasted when you visited me, remember, Bonnie? And the wine is finished fermentation. I've racked it off it. I've added sulfites. It's going to stay there for a few months, and then we bottle it. The wine is exceptionally different. It's you get that sweet lychee, peach flavors, and then suddenly you expect that sweetness on the palate, and it's dry, and it's a lower alcohol wine as well. It's probably sitting now at 9% alcohol, and it was natural fermented in barrels as well. In only managed in 2 barrels that I managed to make this year. And then again, last year we started with Sunso as well.
Yeah, I
It's
actually have my
becoming
Senso here. I haven't drank it
yeah.
though. So, it's getting, it's the Senso. And what did you say? You said it was without the stalks, right? So like,
It's, the name is without stalks.
yes.
So what we did is I managed to get a ton of grapes because it's a experiment, and we see what we're trying to achieve with it in that case. So I split the ton. I fermented half of the batch with stalks. That's whole buns. It was crushed. I asked a few ladies here in the cellar of the staff to come and stomp it, just whole buns. And then I left it on the stalks, and in half of a batch, I crushed. So I took out the stalks in that case. We went to the crush and destemmer. So I took out the stalks. So the one I fermented with stalks and the other without stalks. And the whole idea is this part with the stalks, we wanted natural protein. So yeah, with protein, you filter less in that case. And we don't want to strip the wine in that case. So individually, it's been 1 barrel. The other barrels, it was 2 barrels actually, spent it in time in barrel for about up to 9 months. And after 9 months, we tasted the different batches. The one with stalks, obviously stalks add a little bit of tannins to it, tannin structure. It had lesser attractive nose, but on the palate, it was more concentration, whereas the one without stalks had beautiful red berries, almost like strawberries and etc. And it was quite floral, and if you taste it, but it disappears about after a few seconds, it disappears. So what we decided, we're gonna blend these 2 barrels. So we blended it together. So in the end, then that's where the name came from. It's Sunso without stalks. Because
So
technically
both. Technically both.
Yeah.
With or without stalks. Nice. Yes.
And this year I managed to get in a bigger volume of 4 tons, so this could go a little bit more to selective restaurants or hippie wine stores, etc. Which my colleagues can play around because they constantly ask us for more, and this is good stuff. Can we have more? So it looks amazing. I had someone taste it the other day, and that person loved the without stalks part because it has that beautiful upfront red berries and attractive. People love wine. It has a beautiful nose, and it's still in barrel, but old neutral barrels. So after a few months, we're gonna see maybe add a percentage of the stalk part to it. So yeah, it won't be like the previous one 50-50, but this one might differ in that case. So we'll play around, and me and Ken will see how the palate works out in that case, and the balance between the floral, the aromas, and then the palate. Yeah.
Can you just talk about the characteristics of the varietal for Cinsault? So I guess a lot of people don't realize that Cinsault is the working grape, or it's the grape that's in Pinot Noir. So Pinot Noir and Cinsault make Pinotage, not in Pinot Noir, but they make Pinotage, right? But can you talk about Cinsault and like the characteristics of it, just like the general characteristics of it, typically what it tastes like?
Well, Cinsault, it's a little bit different than your normal berries. It's a little bit a medium-sized berry, but it also has a thinner skin. So it's throughout what I've picked up during fermentation and after fermentation, it has a lot of, you almost get like that strawberries and just a touch of red berries, but more fresher red fruits than like normally what you get with a aged red, where you get a dried fruit or prunes. Whereas Cinsault, what I've experienced now working the past 2 years with Cinsault, because Cinsault, one of those varieties that is planted widely, there's a very small patches throughout the country. In that case, it's one of those varieties that in those days KWV, when they were in charge, they told people to pull out Cinsault because there wasn't a demand. But some of the guys far out in Swartland, they managed to keep these small parcels. So it's a very variety which is quite pale in color. It doesn't give you a deep color. It's a fresh. I would say it's more like easy drinking, more like a summer red where you can chill it a bit. In that case, it's awesome. It's perfect when you chill it a bit because it's not. It's a medium to full, a medium type of wine. It's not. If you get someone that makes a full-bodied Cinsault heavy, then I don't know. But Cinsault it's meant to be like, you know, this summer red, which is quite chill a bit in that case. Well, that's what we do. When I enjoy Cinsault, I chill it a bit.
Nice. I'm super excited about this bottle because I very rarely get to drink 100% Cinsault. But I'm trying to share it with friends, so I'm trying not to drink it during lockdown. We'll see if it lasts. I don't know how many more days I can go. Can you talk about some more of the hippie wine varietals that you do? So we talked about Cinsault and the Alexandria Muscat. What other ones are you doing that are kind of like on the hippie level?
Yeah. Well, it's difficult to say. It depends on what's we work and what the market wants, and we explore with the wines that are currently people are now going to instead of going to the ordinary stuff. You know, the big five, the Shirazes, the Mourvedres, the Grenaches, and the Merlots, and etc. We're trying to see where to work. And one of my other red varieties, which I also love, out of the three Rhone varietals, well, I love all three. I love the Grenache, I love the Syrah, Mourvedre. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Mourvedre. It's known as Monastrell in Spain, and also as yeah, it's a variety that's normally a blending part in your Châteauneuf, the Pop, and Côte de Rhône, those type Rhône style blends. And for me, it's one of those varieties that people intended to be like. When I read about Mourvedre, people said it's intended to be earthy, meaty, leathery, gamey. But if you have some pretty good canopy management throughout in the vineyard and the cellar winemaking processes that you use, you can get a fruit-driven Mourvedre, still bold to full, medium to full body, but still retain that fruit in that case. And then each year, what I do is we have a wine called the barrel. It's literally one barrel of Mourvedre, 100% Mourvedre that I do, and it's totally different. What I do is I put it in American oak barrel, and surprising enough, people think American oak. Yeah, I do it a little bit differently. It adds a little bit of sweetness to it, sweet, and you know, American oak gives you a total different flavor profile than French oak. And it's a little bit fuller wine, but it has that beautiful red fruits that comes through. It's not that earthiness, that meatiness of Mourvedre. It's totally different. Yeah.
So can you tell us the difference between French, since you mentioned it, French and American oak? So like what flavor profiles are you going to get from American oak versus French oak?
American oak typically gives that, like people say, that sweet coconut, that type of flavors, whereas French oak gives you quite a large variety of aroma profiles. It depends on the toasting of the barrel. Sometimes you get a caramelized smokiness, etc. But that's why people prefer to use French oak, because of that large variety of flavor profile, whereas American oak gives you typically, but it depends on what variety you want to put in American oak. I normally just in the cellar I put only a bit of Mourvedre in there, and sometimes a bit of Syrah as well. I call it my salt and pepper, our spice rack, because the final blend, we just add 1 barrel to the blend, to a bigger blend volume, and it just adds that salt and pepper to the blend, like we call it.
I like it. I like looking at it like that. So barrel is actually just the top. It's just like the toppings. It's just like the salt and pepper. I like, which toppings do you want on your ice cream? Do you like sprinkles or do you like nuts? So can you tell us now, like, what next? What's next for Ken Forrester? Do you guys have any new releases besides the Alexandria, the Muscat coming out? Once the world opens up, what's some things that people should look forward to tasting at Ken Forrester?
Oh, I've been working on for the past 2 years as well. Because we do Chenin Blanc, we Chenin Blanc crazy here we Chenin Blanc crazy. People is intend to ask us what's next. And recently we also started doing a Chenin Blanc from the Swartland area. We have a parcel out of the Swartland which we get from, and I started producing in Swartland Chenin as well, which was mostly produced for the export market, but we intend to sell a bit local as well. It's totally different. So I'm trying to stay ahead with Chenin Blanc, trying to find new ways with the variety, but it's so much fun working with Chenin Blanc. You know, it's diverse, it adapts to oak, to different type of oaks much more easier than certain varieties. Like certain varieties soaks up the oak too much, whereas Chenin Blanc, it adapts to oak it integrates with oak so easily. In that case, specifically older barrels, it depends. You want to retain that fresher character, you put it in the older, bigger barrels. But yeah, I'm keen to explore more with Chenin Blanc, create a different style, different market in that case. So yeah,
I'm super excited about the Swartland Chenin Blanc. I actually do really like the Swartland Chenin Blancs, the ones that are coming out from Swartlands, because the vines tend to be much older than like your normal Chenin Blanc vines that you might find in Stellenbosch. So I'm excited. Any more questions? Anybody have any questions? No? All right. Is there anything that you'd like to add before I let you go?
For me, well, I just like to say people stay safe and enjoy drinking South African Chenin Blancs. There's so much variety. I myself enjoy drinking different Chenin Blancs. I've tasted different. I've drank throughout the lockdown. Thanks to my good friend Ina for always stocking up with different Chenins, and it's great to drink different Chenins. I won't mention any favorites, but I've drank different regions. I've drank Chenin Blanc from the Breede Kloof, which is on the other side of the mountain, which is probably where the largest Chenin Blanc plantings are. Amazing wines. I've drank Swartland Chenins. I've drank Stellenbosch Chenins. I've drank Franschhoek Chenins, and they're all different in their own way. They're different, but they never disappoint in case. Like I said, there's a difference that options, the different styles that you can enjoy, from the Method Cup Classique to unwooded, to lightly wooded, to full body, to dessert wines. That's the diversity of Chenin Blanc in South Africa. I just like to say, yeah, I enjoy drinking Chenin Blanc and putting it out there.
Yes, I enjoy it too. Thank you so much, Shawn, for joining us for our masterclass today. I know I learned a lot more about Chenin, and I'm super excited to taste that Ken Forrester when the wine opens up. Anybody have any final comments or anything else? Otherwise, Karen.
Shawn, just want to say thanks for making our job so much easier out there by producing such awesome wines. And it's great hearing from you and seeing you again. And please, any wines that you need to send up to Joburg, please send ASAP as soon as lockdown's over.
Yes. Are you guys taking pre-orders by chance for wine?
Any orders?
I'm not sure
Yes,
what the farm
yes.
is. I think there might be something on social media where the farm will take orders, and once lockdown's over, we'll send out.
Yeah, that would be amazing. People can put in their
We've
order.
got some exciting offers that we will also put up on social media and online. So yeah, have a look out for some amazing stuff. Lockdown offers. Yeah, we out there.
Nice. All righty. So if we don't have any more comments, we'll let Shawn go. And he covered a lot for Chenin Blanc. So I don't think there's any need for us to have like a post class after this. Usually we kind of go over the grape varietals and the characteristics, but I feel really confident that you gave us a lot of information.
Thank you, Tiwani.
So we're gonna so thank you so much for coming.
Shawn.
I appreciate you, and we'll be back not next week. We'll be back on Thursday actually with a brandy class. It's actually going to be a real live brandy class where you can apply and become certified in brandy, South African brandy. So come back next week.
Cool.
Bye everyone.
Thank you guys. Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shawn.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Good to see you too.
All right.
Cheers.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.